Welcome to episode 12. 13? Oh, that was one out. 13. Have we done unlucky for some, but very lucky today because this is our third attempt to get today's guest on the show. We had a technical problem, which cost us quite a lot of money. Had to go and buy a new bit of equipment. And the first one. Second one, someone decided to throw themselves under a train, which is very unfortunate, which stopped you being able to get here. And we're here. So without further ado, straight into today's guest. He's called John Ashton. He's the author of The Kitchen Table Method. Now, he hasn't read Agencynomics, but I've read his book. And it's a fantastic book. And, you know, I found it goes into a lot more detail on the early stage, you know, for those people who are freelancers or got early stage lifestyle businesses. I thought it was a really, really useful book. All the advice was fantastic. I genuinely loved it, and I'm about to do an Amazon review, which I have written, which I will get up there for you.
Thank you very much.
5 stars.
Much appreciated.
So welcome, John Ashton.
Pleasure to be here, Spencer.
And so you, where we're going to start, I want your background story because it is fascinating. So tell me about how you started life, and especially the Lockerbie stuff.
Okay, well, I had absolutely no background at all in the agency world. I came to it in my 40s, in my late 40s. Before then, I'd had a couple of careers. I'd worked in TV, first of all, in current affairs documentaries, doing kind of investigative work. In the process of that, I ended up writing quite a lot, and then I ended up writing some books. And the big story that I worked on was the Lockerbie bombing story, which I dipped in and out of for many years. And in the end, to cut a long story short, I ended up working as a legal investigator for the guy who was convicted, who I always thought was innocent, a Libyan guy called Megrahi. And he, I don't know if you remember, but about 10 years ago, he had to go back to Libya because he was diagnosed with cancer. It was a huge scandal, and he asked me to write his book, his story, which I did. In that kind of process, I was thinking, what will happen next? And during my kind of writing career, I'd done some commercial writing, reports for NGOs and local councils and so on. So I thought to myself, as I was doing the book, and even before then, what do I do next? And I thought, well, I'll go back to be a freelance writer doing mostly commercial work. Then I thought, I really don't want to do that. Then I had this bright idea of starting an agency, but I didn't have a clue how to do it. I just knew some writers, and I thought, well, knew some writers, I'll make a website. Yeah. What can go wrong? And then all the work started coming from...
So what year was this?
This was 2012. My Megrahi book came out in 2012.
Right.
So it's 8 years ago. So I had no grounding. No, not at all. I mean, I had really no grounding in the agency world at all. I just kind of bumbled into it. And it turned out that most of our early clients, particularly, were other agencies. So I was suddenly plunged into this world of marketing and of digital without having an idea at all what it was all about. But gradually, picked up a lot of contacts, and we got a lot of traction because we were only offering writing. The company's called Right Arm. It's just snowballed from there.
There's not many agencies who just... I like to think I've got a good network of agencies. Like, I probably personally know about a good 2,500. I think our sort of contact list is probably more like about 5,000 or 6,000 now. But I can only name about 5 writing agencies. It literally is. It was 4. It's 5 because I found Mark had met one in Scotland who works with us. So there are much more than 5, by the way. But actually, it's a very niche area, a very sort of niche specialism. Yeah.
Yeah. I call us a content agency and not a content marketing agency because we just give the bullets for marketers to fire, and we do all kinds of writing. If it involves the written word, then we can do it because the model I've adopted from the start was to employ only freelancers. So the company for a long time, the only salaried employee was me. Everybody else was freelance. As we got really busy, I've hired a couple of people to help me out who were kind of better at all that stuff, the operational stuff, than I am. Yeah. But still, all the client work is done by freelance writers.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Pete.
So I was going to say, you've taken some people on. What roles did you take on in your agency?
They're operations manager and operations coordinator, so the senior and junior role.
Yeah.
And that was necessary because I was so busy in doing all the day-to-day stuff that I wasn't able to do new business. So in hiring people, it's freed me up to do new business.
Yeah.
And it, really helped.
And did you then, when you started out, did you have a vision for where you wanted it to go?
No.
Or, no. Okay,
I just
great.
needed to pay the bills.
No, and I mean that's the whole point that you're here today with this book, because you're showing there's an alternative way, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. I mean, my broad aim was to build a lifestyle business that worked. But beyond that, I didn't really have any ambitions for the company. Funnily enough, I've just published an article on Medium last night about the 3 questions you should ask before you set up an agency. And the first one is, what's my mission? And I didn't ask that till I was 3 years in. I just kind of blundered through, and I thought all these kind of questions, they're kind of marketing bullshit type stuff. And I realized they're not, and they're actually questions you should address. And if you address them from the start, you'll have a much less circuitous journey than I had. You can, if you know what you're about, if you know what your selling points are, and if you have a solid proposition, then you're halfway there. And I only got to that point after about 3 years.
Yeah, and I think most people do. I mean, most people don't know it all from day one, So, no. I mean, I thought I was going to be 8 people. I didn't know that I was going to go as far as I did. I just thought it'd be nice to have 8 people in a room building websites. It'd be fun, And actually, I didn't have any of that either. I think a lot of people we meet, Pete, I would say even most of the bigger guys don't really have a written. I mean, even we work with some
really
guys
unusual.
2 million and they don't have anything written down. So I'm not saying a lot of people don't, and a lot of people do have it, but it's probably more common, I think, we see. Even with the bigger guys, sometimes not to be as clear as where they're going. Well, you felt guilty about it. It seems though.
Well, I'm not so much guilty. I was just kicking myself. When you view these things from hindsight, then you think, "Oh Christ, why didn't I do that? It'd be so much easier if I did." Because things really clicked into place when I'd done those things. But to go back to your point, most agency owners don't really, when they start off, have a clue about business, and they accumulate it on the way. If you find an agency owner with an MBA, I mean, my God, they're rare as hen's teeth, right? They don't. We're just not. We're all creatives, right, in our own way. And
I don't know if an MBA would help you grow an agency, though.
No, it might not. No.
I mean, I did an MBA part time about a year or so ago, just to learn what the academic approach to what I'd done in business, and it's technically all right, but actually. Yeah, there's still, I don't know. I think it gives you some good technical knowledge on how to grow a business, but I don't know whether it would really help you with an agency. But anyway, that's my.
Well, it's a people-led business, right? And you've got to be, you've got to have those people skills to make it go of it. I really think that, and particularly when you're.
I think people with MBAs aren't stupid enough to start agencies. There's got to be a better business. Let's build a product business. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you've got a point. I mean, but so many people in it. They transition from being freelancers or sometimes from being a staffer to having an agency, but particularly freelancers. I mean, you did it. I almost did it. Where you take on more work that you can do yourself. Therefore, you find mates who can do it, and before you know where you've got an agency. A lot of people don't actually start off with the idea of having an agency. I mean, I did, but it was always going to be a lifestyle business, and it was always going to be using freelancers. It's never going to be bricks and mortar, and I didn't I mean, I've got staff now, but I didn't envisage that from the start.
So I love this episode because I think we've talked to a lot of people who've grown their businesses and want to grow their businesses, and Pete and I think it's true to say when we first started, in fact we even wrote this in our book, we said when we first started, we were like, well, you must be mad. Of course you want to grow your business. Why do you want it to be a lifestyle business and then suddenly hit, 65 years old and realize you've got nothing of value? But that was probably only because I'd only ever seen my parents have lifestyle businesses and not really see much at the end. And so I thought you always had to really focus on scaling. But actually, I think we massively changed and softened. I mean, it didn't take 2 or 3 years for us to realize that we've actually met some incredibly successful lifestyle businesses, incredibly successful for the owners of those businesses. And I think the more we met those people, the more agencies we came across, the more we realized that lifestyle versus scalable is, and I love the fact you've written this blog article, by the way, because I think it is important people know early on, what do they want to do? Do they want to grow, or do they want to just give? Because it is 2 very different approaches, isn't it? I mean, there are similarities, of course, but it is very different. So I love that we're going to get some time today to talk with you about that side of it, from being a freelancer, I guess, or an individual.
Yeah, pretty much. I was.
Then deciding whether they want to, collaborate or just keep it, but mainly thinking about their lifestyle first. That's fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or synergy between what they work and their work and life balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think
because you get none of that when you scale an agency.
Well, one of the things I talk about in the book is, you start your journey, or you should start your journey by examining what you want, deep down what you want. And of course, most people want fulfillment, but what does fulfillment consist of for you? And for me, at that time of life, it was about being able to work from home, having time with children and so on, having a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom. I mean, I've always liked having a lot of flexibility and freedom, but it was particularly pertinent at that point. So I ended up building an agency in that image. So, and what I mean by that is,
feet up on the table.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. But it was that became central to the proposition, both for clients and for the people we were employing. Freedom and flexibility. I was saying to clients, we're not going to tie you into retainers. We've got a lot of writers who are freelancers, so we can deliver them when you need them, the right writer when you need them, rather than saying, okay, we're a bricks and mortar agency with a few staff writers, and you get one of the staff writers. So there was a lot of freedom and flexibility for clients, which they liked. And I was also offering that to the people who work for us. I was saying, you can continue to be freelance. We'll put your work your way. We'll be loyal to you. We won't be breathing down your neck. You can work when and where you like, as long as you get the work done. And they really like that as well. So it was interesting. I ended up building a proposition out of my own needs and desires, and that's something I really strongly advocate. And I think if you want to start an agency, then start there, and everything else should be built out of that.
Yeah,
I wish I'd known that when I started.
Yeah, and so now when you talk about the future of your business, how do you sort of define now what that looks like? Do you go, do you want to have any scale at all? I mean, do you want to have bigger clients, or do you want to have more freelancers, more partners? Did you look at it that way,
I began to look at it that way about 3 years ago, and I took on a business coach, and he sort of boldly put the question, "What do you want?" And there was two routes. Either you could begin to scale it, or grow it at least. Or you could just stand still. And I decided I wanted to grow it, so I started doing a lot of marketing. I took on one staff member and then another. So I do want to grow it, but okay. I don't want it to be, a mega corporation that I go on and sell. I mean, maybe one day I'll sell it if anybody's interested. But the idea is kind of, I suppose, sits between a scalable business and a standard lifestyle business, perhaps. Yeah. But I am actually doing a new business venture. I'm starting a community for these kind of small agencies called the Kitchen Table Community. So that's taking up a lot of my thinking time at the moment.
To support people who are in the freelance community who kind of need help to sort of grow the business side of it, get business advice around.
Yeah, basically, it's going to be a sort of a lot of how-to content for them. It's trying to create a really nice cohesive community of small, what I call kitchen table agencies.
Yeah.
And it will be a marketplace for them, and they'll get deals on things and so on. But first and foremost, it's about community. But I'm launching that as I'm still continuing to do write-on, which of course is a challenge. But that's the Kitchen Table Method book.
Pete and I are always nagging people to focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, I know. And as I say it, and actually, interestingly, I shouldn't confess this, but last year when I put a lot of effort into that, the Brexit effect kicked in. So actually revenues went down quite a lot, and I was too distracted to really nip it in the bud. Okay. So your lesson, which of course I've heard you said many times, which is concentrate on one thing, was it was absolutely demonstrated to be true, because I diversified and my main business took a hit.
It was weird because the way I look at this, I look at it as your personal brand more. Like I see you're the kitchen table guy, you're the person who runs this agency, but what you've done here, I don't see it necessarily as a sidekick. I mean, I'm sure there were some distractions, but for me, it feels like it's part of your personal branding your story and yes, okay, maybe there is a business coming off the side of it which you've got to try and get people to maybe run. I mean, I think that P and I run a consultancy business, but we know we also have a social enterprise Agencyphonics, which is designed to support and help the next and future generation of agencies. But we kind of don't run that as such. We volunteer time into it, which we would do normally with a trade body or something else. We've always volunteered for some things, so that's our way of paying it forward. But with the other businesses we do, we have people running them, and I think that's always the advice we always talk about.
Yeah.
But for you, it feels to me more like it's more you.
It
makes
is.
sense.
It absolutely.
And therefore, it's not really something else. It's just kind of you and
because the stuff that fascinates me most about running an agency, probably running a business in general, but particularly running an agency, is all the kind of soft human stuff. Because what I've realized along the way is actually this is a brilliant model, and it's a brilliant model for a number of reasons. One is, and there's a real business benefit from it. If you run an agency in this way, you are employing people who you're giving maximum freedom to, and that essentially that makes them happier. I employ a lot of parents, a lot of people who need that flexible lifestyle, who don't want to work in an office, and when they can come and work for us from home, that works perfectly for them when they're young parents or whatever, or they might have other family commitments. It works really well for them, so they're happy, so they do better work. So there's a benefit for the clients.
I mean, that's been a constant theme in this podcast and vodcast series. All the way through, I think we've had quite a lot of agile, agencies in with what we call either distributed or agile models, where they don't have any full-time employees. And I think Pete's question probably around who was full-time was probably a bit of a leading one along that of some of those businesses. They realise that you can't have everybody distributed because the client doesn't want. Sometimes the client needs to ring up Friday and speak to an account manager. Not in all businesses, but in some they do, and therefore if that person's working 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, they can't. And the guys we had on last, they had 100% flexible work, full scalable business, 100% flexible workforce, unlimited holiday, self-regulated. So I think what you're doing is becoming almost the norm with the big guys now as well, believe it or not, the scalable guys. But I think what's really, really important is that community that you're talking about is like things like IR35, like the laws are not keeping up, in my opinion, with the collaborative economy, with with the gig economy, with these distributed workforce. You've got all these individuals, and rather than people using it as a tax dodge, working with self-employed people, not paying national insurance. Pete, I'm talking like stuff you should be talking about.
Right.
But the laws are not quite.
No, they're for 15 years behind.
Yeah, they're 15 years behind. So I think what you're doing is brilliant, because you're going to be able to hopefully. Again, is IR35 been an issue that's come up with you guys? No, but it will do. I promise you, because all these people that are self-employed, if they're only working for one person, technically they've got to pay the tax, and the person contracting them has to pay the tax.
Well, all our people have other work streams as well. And we don't have anybody who's anything like.
But the more flexible working you do, the more you're going to find people that have only got the time to do one thing. Like the people who only can work 1 day a week or 2 days a week. So,
I'm sure that's the case. Yeah, it is. It's crazy, and it doesn't really reflect the world as it is now.
Yeah. So what you're doing is great, and I think also things like getting people to think about, because I know that when I was a one-man band, and when I have my, let's say, the first 0 to 6, everything I would. Was it probably true when I first? Yeah, it's true. Like whatever the drawings were, because I was before limited at first. I would just take that was my salary. So I would take everything out of the business each month. Whereas when you scale, you almost have to use that money to pay for other people and things like that. So I guess the advice you're going to be able to give people, to make sure that they are saving and investing. Because if people build a scalable business, one day maybe they might sell it. They might do. And they wait, that's their retirement funds. Whereas, like my parents, they got to 65 years old, and Pete and I meet a lot. I'm not going to exaggerate. We meet a lot of 65-year-olds running agencies who go, "Oh, I've never saved anything. I've just basically just taken it out and lived off the money and got a nice lifestyle." And they're like, "I want to sell the business now." And
you're like, "Sell my business."
We're like, it might be quite hard now, So you'll be able to help those people say, if you're going to be lifestyle, then I guess put some money away, exactly, because or make some investments and in property and pensions or whatever, and do that stuff. So I think it's great. I think there needs to be a voice, for these kind of lifestyle businesses. I really do.
Yeah, and I think as well as there's the kind of there's the social imperatives that are driving it. You know, people need that. You know, it's a cliche, but a better work-life balance. You know, particularly those who are in midlife. You know, they've got kids and so on, and they might have parents to look after, all that kind of stuff. But there's also the environmental one. I think. You know, if we can cut down on commuting, that's no small thing. And I think, you know, it's not only me agencies that move to this model. All kinds of businesses will. You know, I mean, some have done for years, but I think, hopefully at least, for very many people, a large section of the working population working from home or from near home, not commuting at least, will become the norm.
It solves so many problems. It solves challenges around talent attraction, gender diversity, racial diversity, cultural diversity, age diversity, disability diversity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It solves all of those things.
Yeah.
The agencies that have that type of approach, they're just able to get better workforces, but they've got to have the systems and the processes to be able to organise, right? And I guess that's where your book also helps them understand how to do those things. Yeah,
to an extent. I mean, I have to say, because there's only 3 of us staff, then the organisational challenges are not huge. And also, you know, we're providing writing services to clients. I mean, if if you're doing a big web build project, then you're going to need collaborative technologies, whereas we don't so much. So I'm not claiming we've got
No,
can
I
offer
guess
a panacea.
but I guess that. I guess there are going to be times when you do end up doing. We talk about billings as £10,000 per month on average for someone full time working in your business. But I guess if you're selling £10,000 a month of writing work for, I don't know, automotive clients as a sector, sometimes it might make more sense to have someone dedicated to the business, even if they're working on maybe not because they are 35, but sometimes it does make sense to have dedicated. I mean, I'll give you the example, the best ones. Pete and I got asked to go and help because the one thing is we've got models. In fact, in the book, when we write the next version, we're actually going to update all of the models here, because actually when we wrote it, we actually talk about your type of that sort of distributed model and the freelance model, which, honestly, when I had my agency, people would frown upon. They'd go, "Oh, you're just a bunch of freelancers pretending to be a business or whatever." Whereas now it's more acceptable. But the thing we wrote in the book was all about very much what's the model for a normal agency. But actually, we had a client said, they've turned over 1 million in their first year turnover.
These were the guys I was thinking when I asked the question.
Yeah, they got zero, no employees, just the owner.
Wow.
But what's genius about them, I really want to name them, but I won't because I've just meant to talk to numbers. But what's genius about them is all of the flexible workforce have actually written down they work for that company on their LinkedIn profiles. So they actually can show they've got the workforce. The team photos are there, they just won a major brand. They were pitching against another flexible workforce agency and 2 other traditional agencies, and they won the pitch. So they're even going in and pitching now and winning. And so I think what I was trying to say here is that I think but the lesson learned with her was obviously the model's different. So the GP's lower because you're using freelancers, so your gross profit's a lot less because you're outsourcing a lot of, you haven't got the in-house fixed cost. But it was some of the full-time help that was needed, like you could have lots of flexible marketing people, but having one person next to you doing your marketing or one personal assistant, you could have a virtual assistant, sure.
Well, that was a question when we met, and I think is one of the things that when we had our brunch the other day, she was going to ask me about that, which was, she's at the point now where, how do you choose who you have around you? And I guess you've already decided that you needed delivery people.
Yeah, because that was taking up so much of my time. Because we do a lot of jobs. We do about 300 jobs a year.
Because I was freelancing, right? I was freelancing with people, and I was working all day and all night building websites. Like I thought, well, this isn't a lifestyle anymore. I'm working 18, 20-hour days.
I could totally relate to this. When I did my accounting business, I spent the whole day either in the post office, the bank, or new business meetings, and did all the accounts and tax returns in the evening.
Yeah, but then I was getting, you were getting other people to help me with finance. I was getting other people to help me with it. But actually, I didn't have a lifestyle anymore because the other freelancers, so you have to find what you don't do sometimes and put sometimes those people around you.
Yeah, I mean, I basically worked out what are the things I like doing least, and the first was the books. So the first person I got on board was a bookkeeper. obviously they're freelance,
really?
but
doesn't everyone love the books?
but you know,
they
the other things I got to dislike was the day-to-day operational stuff. I mean, as I said, we get in probably 300 jobs a year. So in any one week, that's quite a few jobs that you've got to manage. Wow. And that was just becoming too much. So I thought, well, that's what I need to hive off, rather than say hive off the new business function, because the new business stuff I really like doing. But you know, everybody's different, and you might.
What about new business? If you had to get someone to help you with new business, do you think you would recruit that, or would you? Yeah,
I would. Yeah. I mean, probably on a part-time basis. Yeah. But I think I would. Yeah, I'd do some kind of
part-time. Yeah.
So we've just had, for the first time ever on our podcast, a question come in on the live chat, which is very relevant.
Oh, excellent! Very good.
Let's take it. This is great.
What's your shoe size?
You mean someone's actually listening?
Yeah. More than 3 people this
time.
I
should just say, actually, we're up to 1,000 views per episode for the early episodes now. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting us. The podcast last week was around 200. So we're really, really pleased with the numbers. It's really getting members. So thank you everyone for supporting us. Please hit subscribe. Sorry.
So the question is, how do you find remote working affects recruitment, if at all?
It's a great help. Presumably we're talking about my 2 staff.
Well,
or freelancers as well.
Extended freelancers.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the freelancers, they're just happy working remotely. You know, most of them want to work remotely. Some of them are very happy.
How do you find those people?
Most of them, they found us. I mean, when I started off, I had quite a few friends who were writers, so I just stuck them on the website. But then most of the other writers have found us. But increasingly, we go out and find people as well, because we say to clients, we can give you any kind of writer you want. And then we sometimes get some how do you find those? Because I imagine someone says, have you got anyone that writes on, I don't know, electric cars, and you have to find an electric car. How do you source those people? Through the network, we ask around in our network. We go into LinkedIn, and we also look at trade press. So if just about every niche has a trade publication, usually online. You can go there, find the writers who specialise.
Look for the name at the bottom of the article.
Exactly. Yeah. Then you can find them on LinkedIn or wherever.
But a lot of writers are freelancers, I take it.
Yeah, and they all. Yeah, I mean, most people who appear to be staff writers for publications are freelancers, or they do work on the side. Yeah. But in terms of the staff I've recruited, then it's a real plus if you say you can work flexibly and remotely, because this massive talent pool of people who are at the margins of the workforce, unfortunately, many of whom are women or young mothers, and I'm all for employing them because they're brilliant. I mean, my first 2 employees were young mothers, one a returner, and they're just brilliant. And they fit in the work around the their own family commitments, and they do an incredibly good job. And the new person I've taken on, he's a dad. He's got a young child, and he's great too. He works it all around his the nursery routine and the family routine more generally. And as I said earlier, you employ those people, they're happy that they've got a job that fits around the lifestyle, and happy people do better work. It's a very simple equation.
Mm. So I was going to say, do any of them crave an office environment occasionally where they can come and talk to the other freelancers?
Well, I think people who crave an office environment will get an office job.
Yeah.
And career as well, because I think, do you think people... I mean, because I did this whole strengths and weaknesses thing, which I really should have printed out and brought with me, but it was the strengths and the weaknesses of Lifestyle and Scalable. Yeah. And there were many strengths, by the way. I mean, there were, you get a better work-life balance. Maybe there's a lot less pressure and stress. I mean, maybe there is still pressure and stress, but maybe not as much. But one of the weaknesses was staff retention, because actually, if people don't feel like they're kind of progressing in their career or they're moving on, because that business is sort of kind of staying maybe quite static. You know, when we meet Lifestyle has been around a long time, a lot of the team, and by the way, some people want this, right? Some people want jobs for life and they want it to be quite... But then, do people sometimes think, well, I want to kind of learn more, I want to do more things, and does that...
We'll also ask the question, sorry, because was it Skin and Blister who would sometimes get everybody together, even though they all work remotely? Yeah. I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
No.
I did listen to it twice as well.
I've interviewed them for my podcast too.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm asking the right people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
I think they do.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to, as a team, the employees get together, once a month, and we're in constant contact with each other. But to answer that question, I think it would be an issue for many people. Yeah, but the people, I'm very clear when I've produced the job adverts that these jobs are for people who want to have a lifestyle job that they can fit in around the family, because that was how I wanted my working life to be. Yeah. So people really tune into that. Of course, if you wanted if you wanted a sort of soar away career, you're not going to answer that job. But if you want something that, if you want a job that you can have for a few years, before your child starts school or whatever it might be, then it's ideal.
But also, I was talking to Mike from BozBoz last episode. He's from Brighton, and we did a joke about the Mickey Flanagan. As you go to Brighton, all the motivation gets sucked out of you. That sketch he does, and saying, actually, if you live in Brighton, most people, and Bournemouth, there are a large amount of people, let's not stereotype, but a large, who are there for the lifestyle. Living in Brighton, living in Bournemouth, you get the sea life, and you've got a community, you've got great communities, great, it's a great place to live, to live life. And so actually it probably suits a lot of people. But sometimes when you're in maybe London, other areas, I think like we used to have this gag up where we were, that if people were north of, because we used to be based near here actually in Farnborough, Hampshire, and north of Camberley, everyone's really driven and motivated, and then south of Basingstoke, everyone was like, "Oh, I just here to get a job and earn some money," and just it was like kind of the drive was. As you go further to London, people sometimes are more driven. Yeah,
well, I mean, I used to have an office job in London when I was in TV, and I worked all hours, and I absolutely loved it, and I was very driven. I'm driven in a different way now. Yeah, I think I'm still driven, but in a different way.
So what do you think the main challenges are today for people? So people listening that maybe are working in agencies that want to go it alone, that want to go freelance, that want to maybe start out by themselves. What are there sort of some kind of steps or advice when people speak to you that you'd give them?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is the mental one, because as we were saying before, essentially this is a world for creatives, and creatives aren't great business people, right? So it's very easy.
Listening creatives.
Well, it's true. I am one. It's very easy to be intimidated by the idea of having a business. And, my biggest lesson is that if this idiot can do it, then so can you. Really. Because I didn't have a clue. I did not have a clue. And in many ways, I still don't. I don't understand all the nuances.
But it's a lot simpler now, isn't it? It's simpler to get a bank account set up because of the online banks. Like, I remember, sometimes that's 6 to 12 months to set. I think it would take us 6 months to get our bank account set up after we sold the business.
If you go back, 3-4 years ago, NatWest still had paper forms to fill in for a bank application. The bank manager was embarrassed, saying, it's the paper form.
So they can,
and now you have Monzo, Starling.
Yeah, so they can set the bank out quickly.
5 minutes.
I guess it's just that, and they can, probably get a copy of Xero and start doing their finances, or get someone to do it online quite cheap. I mean, there can't be that's probably why so many people are becoming self-employed, and how many people are doing gig economy, because it is getting easier.
Yeah, the tools are all there, but I think nevertheless, this idea of running a business is very intimidating to a lot of people, and it was for me a few years ago.
Yeah. Did you have any clients when you started?
No, I had nothing.
Really? I mean, the thing is, because you literally just went with no clients. I've had somebody else had that as well.
Because I wasn't from the agency world at all, and because
you have any friends that said, "We'll give you some
I had nobody. I had absolutely nobody, and for 6 months, nothing happened.
So, how much money did you kind of have to live off? What did you? Because I think that's probably a good way to answer this, which is, if someone's going to start alone, either in the background they've been setting up their business on the side. By the way, I know this happens because actually the creative that we work with has been doing this. He's been in the background building his own personal portfolio up.
You have a story about that stuff. Hugh Robertson, similar thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so you either have it in the sideline, you go, we're going to build it up, and then we're going to leave the job and we're going to start working, which you got to be careful, because obviously some difficult affecting your job when you're doing side hustles, but they're quite trendy these days. Or passion projects. But otherwise you go like you did. I think you did the same. They started without any clients and then said, we have a burning bridge. So we go, and I did this, by the way. I had £4,500. I could last 3 months. Everyone's bored of this story by now. But anyway, it's to say the burning bridge. You have an amount of money. In fact, you had 5,000. I think it's very similar, and you give yourself a time. Did you do that as well?
I didn't give myself a time. I just watched the money slowly running out. I mean, I tell a story in the book. After about 6 months, no work had come in, and I went on holiday with the family. And I just remember we went to see my brother-in-law who was living in northern Spain at the time, and we'd drive into his house, and I just had this twitch in my eyelid that I couldn't stop. I was just super stressed. And thankfully, about 6 weeks after that, the first big client came, and it was just, it wasn't plain sailing from there, but we got the momentum, and that was fine. But when you set off and you've got a business, but you haven't got clients, it's really scary, and it can happen. And one of the things I'm
how
saying
did you
to people,
look for business in those early days? Do you remember? Because you're quite a good
I emailed a few
networker.
people.
I've met you
but I wasn't a networker then.
You weren't then.
I
okay.
had no network at all. I think as people found us organically, and then I honestly don't remember. I didn't do a lot of networking until about 2 years in.
We sort of waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah, and emails to come in. I mean, I just had this.
Maybe that's not good advice.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. But
But do you give techniques in here for how they should find new business?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main ones, I think. I mean, the thing is, if you're a freelancer and you're a creative freelancer and you've got a number of clients, then making the transition to become an agency needn't be scary, because actually you're sort of just changing your name to begin with. You're creating a brand that's bigger than you. And then when you get sufficient work in to farm it out to freelancers, then you've got kind of got your agency at that point. I didn't. I mean, I really did start from ground zero. And what I'd say to anybody is it's very unlikely it's going to be as scary as it was for me. But yeah, I mean, there are techniques. I mean, I'm a great believer in networking. Get out there from the start. And also, I've found email marketing work tremendously well. I mean, I've got a company handling my email marketing now. And I fought really shy of it before because I thought cold contact nobody liked. But actually, it does really work if you do it properly.
Oh, all of the content, all of the copywriting businesses that I know, so those 4 that I know, the 5, but all of them are exceptionally good compared with other agencies. And it's because there is a reason for it, okay? But they're all very good at that kind of very direct inbound.
Yeah.
From email, from search, from content. Because it's quite hard to find. I'm just saying I only know 5 people. I can give you probably list out 300 from the top of my head, web development companies, and that niche service rather than niche sector is actually, I think it makes most marketing managers go, I need to find, like the amount of people that have contacted me saying, do you know a copywriter?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Whereas, everyone knows a web development company or everyone knows a marketing agency.
Well, that's where it's been easy for me, I think, because a client might need writing 10 times a year, and they're going to need a new website once every 10 years. So but that said, we're fairly low ticket items. We might a typical invoice might be for 100 quid, might be for a couple of thousand. But we have clients who are who are going to want going to want 1,500 quid jobs a quarter, so that adds up. But we do have a lot of clients, and you need a lot of clients when you've got a copywriting business, because you're not charging an awful lot.
Yeah, definitely. So, what advice do you give people in here around new business? Email marketing's one of them.
Email marketing's one of them. I mean, the first stop, actually, before you do anything, is work out your proposition. Because if you don't have a proposition, then
of course,
nobody's going to touch you.
Yeah.
And my proposition at the start was, we write. It was that week. And also, and we can do websites and a bit of design and photography. And it was just hopeless, as a proposition. And then I junked the other services, so it was just we write. And then it was only further down the ride that I realized the proposition was, we are a flexible writing resource for marketers. Yeah. And people get that. You get it really well. Yeah. So you need your proposition first. But in terms of getting your business, then I'd say your thing about networking, referrals, and what's the third? The networking, referrals, get your 30-30-30-10 rule.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed now to sort of more 25-25-25, but it's and interestingly enough, I've just seen another piece of research with business development people in the UK, quite a big one, and it's still very, mirrors the same thing really, but it's typically about a quarter of people's business comes from the networking, the speaking events. So if you look at someone like Stephen Bartlett, he's grown the business to 800 people in 8 countries in 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Well, it's because he does 58 speaking events a year. So that's one quarter, speaking and your networking and your thought leadership. And that means you've got to have a good personal brand. So the stuff you're doing here, Key Person of Influence, Daniel Priestley's book, I've been plugging it quite a lot recently. It's quite an old book, but it's still really explains it very well. And then 25% comes from your existing clients, asking other clients asking your clients for referrals, or your clients taking you with them to the next place. That's normally about 25%. And actually, that's the area that people are really weak in. So actually, the report I saw said that the agencies have stopped asking their clients for referrals. And so we're doing a big referral masterclass webinar soon on how to develop a referral engine for your business. And the next 25% is strategic partnerships.
Yeah.
And so, alliances, strategic alliances, that's actually, that report highlighted that. And obviously I was very grateful because I partnered with a really good web hosting business who helped me connect to their customers, and that helped me scale. And then last 20% is the stuff you talked about. So the email content, cold calling, marriage brokers, intermediaries, SEO,
traditional marketing.
Traditional marketing. And I think if you get the secret to agent, there is no silver bullet of agencies, but it's the nearest thing to silver bullet is actually a referral. But because in this, actually the big report, it said that I just read, which is ironically got less people participating in the survey than our report, but that's quite funny. So it's not the biggest, it's probably the second biggest. But anyway, the thing we learned from that was that team members and your management team, the people senior, that have connections are, I think it was like in our one, it was number 5 on the league table. I'm not selling this, by the way, but go to the Cactus website, download, it's 30 quid. You'll get the feedback of where our leads come from. It's, the thing is that your team members are referrers, your clients are referrers, your partners, your suppliers are referrers, your network are referrers, and ultimately referrer deals convert higher and they take less time. So that's 50% of all agencies get business from referrals. Yeah, if you take an average across all the agencies, so that's really, really important to know. But then there's like 12 ways that 80% of agencies get their business in from, and that's kind of where we say do that. And I think when you're small, when you're here, the guy I spoke to today, he's got 4 people in his business. And he said, well, what should I focus on? Because obviously I've got to do a lot to get business in. Where do I focus? And I was like, you just got to focus on 5 or 6 things, because you're small and you can't afford a marketing manager, and as a team, you're not going to be able to bring it all in. So I think that I love what you've done with New Business, by the way, because it's so funny because I see it with all the other people like you. If I spoke to 100 marketing managers, I promise you 99 probably wouldn't be able to tell me the name of a copywriting agency. Yeah, and I think didn't Campaign to a story yesterday where they said, the copywriting, there's almost like a shortage. It feels like this almost underappreciated skill to have.
Yeah, I think so, because
it's so tactical.
Yeah, and so the agency world is, it's full of
sorry for that long rant then, by the way.
It's full of creators, it's full of digital creators, and it's full of marketers, and there aren't that many people. What I say is we give those people the bullets to fire. Yeah. So it's like it's like selling shovels in the gold rush.
Yeah. What's that David Ogilvy story? I mean, the thing that always, whenever I think about copy and how important what you do as a service is, as an agency, is when I think about and I guess you do creative copywriting, right, as well as like kind of technical copywriting. But the David Ogilvy story, do you know the one about the guy in the new? I'm going to paraphrase this because I'm always very bad at knowing these things by heart. But it was a homeless guy who was blind in a park. I think it was in New York, and David Ogilvy walks past, and the sign says, I'm homeless, and it had a hat, please donate. And the first story I heard about this was he told somebody else, I can change that and I can make him get more money in. But then the second one, he just did this. But apparently he went over and took the sign and he changed it, and he said, it's autumn, I'm blind. like please donate or something, and change the whole thing to be, to make people realise that he was blind and he couldn't see the autumnal leaves or leaves, or it may well have been spring. But the play on words to communicate a message in a much more powerful way. And then the bucket filled up with coins. Everyone just started donating because they could empathise and sympathise with the homeless guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of people, creative copywriters from an advertising background, and I'm in awe of their skill. My background's
you're a journalist.
So I'm used to that kind of very functional type writing. But to be able to do that stuff, I mean, it's equivalent skill to being a poet.
Yeah, listen, you wrote a book on the Lockerbie bomber, or the alleged Lockerbie bomber, and then the wrongly accused. Was it wrongly accused?
Wrongly convicted. Yeah,
and then you wrote one like this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Two contrasting books.
Yeah, and I've also written a guidebook on walking.
Have you?
Well, yeah.
Oh, is that why you came on our walk? So the Agencynomics walk and talk. You came on it, didn't you? So,
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, but mine's from Brighton and Sussex walks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've written a few books, and there's some very different ones in among there.
Yeah. So what's the plans for the kitchen table method? Because I know you've got some really big plans for this.
Yeah, well, off the back of the kitchen table method book and the kitchen table agency course, which was launched today, I'm creating the kitchen table community, which will be, and the proposition for it is it's a place where small creative agencies form, connect, and thrive. So it will be, there's kind of 4 strands to it. First and foremost, it's a community, so there'll be that kind of mutual self-help element, which I think the Agency Collective does brilliantly.
Yep.
Then there will be, I think the key element will be there's a marketplace. So these small agencies, all of which, or most of which, will be specialists, can trade with each other. So there'll be a project board, there'll be a directory where they can find each other, collaborate. Then there will be deals on stuff. So I'm setting up deals with various suppliers who want to tap into that market and who can offer good discounts and so on. And then there's how-to content. So, obviously people who join will get the book and the course, but there'll be ongoing content. There'll be a lot of that content will be publicly available, but then there'll be more kind of specialist content as well, webinar type stuff and specialist article series and so on. So there's sort of 4 pillars to it.
Okay.
That will launch. I've got about 70 user testers.
You've got an agency to run in the meantime. So
I know that's why it's taken me this long. I mean, I conceived this 3 years ago, and had I had a clear run at it, I could have got it up and running in probably 6-9 months. But it's taken 3 years to get to this point. But that will soft launch to the user tester community. There's about 70 of them, hopefully later this month, and then I'll do a public launch of it in the summer. But it's great. I'm talking to a lot of people about it, and it seems to be getting a very good reception because there is, I think it's hit the zeitgeist because a lot of people are wanting to run this kind of business, but they're also, but they're wanting not to be sitting alone at their kitchen tables feeling isolated.
Yeah.
I think
it
very
is
easy
lonely.
To do. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I used to love the buzz of office life, and I gradually acclimatized to working from home, and I needed to because of family. But it is isolating. It can be, particularly. You need to feel part of something bigger. You need to feel that people are rooting for you.
I wonder if it will go. I almost wonder in a way whether in the future it might go full circle. I mean, look, first of all, I'm with you with the environment stuff. I mean, even Pete and I are talking about changing the way we work now. We normally go to clients' offices and do consultancy, and we're actually saying, well, we might, switch a certain percentage of calls to be remote, or we might even just start creating a remote-only service because actually we recognise that. I mean, I drive an electric car, so maybe I'll have a slightly less carbon footprint, although we can argue whether Teslas are that sustainable when they're produced. But I think we do our bit in a way. But I think that I wonder if it will go full circle. What I mean by that is I just remember interviewing so many people over the years. He just said, I just want to come and be part of a team and meet other people and not be by myself. And in a world where mental health is, can be, difficult, and isolation can cause you to go stir crazy. I think anyone, and like I think you were talking about actually with the Skin and Blister with Kate and Fee, the wonderful Kate and Fee, that is, is trying to make sure you bring people together still. Because Julian, the first agency that I knew of scale that had this distributive model was actually Up There Everywhere, who's the guy I mentioned earlier on, who with Phil Jones, who He's a guy called Julian. You should probably get him on your podcast, actually, because although he scaled it, he was probably one of the pioneers in my mind of collaborative agencies at scale. Because before then, you met someone who said, "I've got a bunch of freelancers working for me. We're 300 strong, or maybe not. We're 20 strong." If I was you, I might have said, "I've got a team of 20 copywriters. We cover all of these sectors," and everyone would have gone, "Yeah, I've just looked on LinkedIn, and actually, you're a one-man band, and everyone you're talking about is a freelancer." And I remember losing deals because people would go, "That person doesn't work for you," because I did use contractors sometimes. But Julian was the first person I know who actually managed to kind of create a brand and then get everyone working for that brand on a flexible working model. And he doesn't have any offices globally. So he's based in Sweden. His business partner's based in LA. So he was running, I think he was running like a 250 person team, and he had he was doing all Microsoft's content, I think, across Europe at one point. I don't know if it's still a client, but it was something he was doing. So quite interesting stuff. And he had these central places of work there because he needed the clients wanted to meet the teams. So he created these kind of offices where clients could meet and the teams could meet. In fact, we went to a meeting the other day, didn't we? And we saw a sign up in a service office with his name on it. So I think what's interesting there is he gets the teams out and gets them together. And I think that whole balance, you've got the community, it's great, but you're going to have to do events next.
Yeah, maybe if I can get around to it.
Yeah.
Took me another 3 years.
I just wonder, do you think, I don't know, I just wonder whether the world will go around in a circle, but people will crave to be part of, real life.
Yeah, there is that. Technologies are very isolating. When we spend, a couple of hours a day staring into a phone, that
someone should ring John's phone now if they're listening. And
it's on airplane mode.
Oh, damn, okay.
No, but I think you're right. People crave human connection, and, our technologies are very isolating. Yeah. So that in itself is going to, will drive that. But at the same time, I think the business world, the traditional business world is okay with this model. You said you nearly lost work because you were a bunch of freelancers posing as an agency.
Oh, by the way, that was back then.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, look, now, Pete and I, 10 years ago, set up Cactus. We are completely distributed. We don't have any offices. We work from Edinburgh down to Exeter. As in our team is based in Edinburgh. We have your model, 100%.
But when I first set up Right Arm, I was talking to clients and really hiding the fact that I had this model, and I was giving my freelancers Right Arm email addresses. And then when I realized what the company proposition was, and it was, we're a flexible writing resource, I started it was the first thing I said to clients, and still is. If I'm sitting down with a prospect, I will say, look, we're a flexible writing resource for marketers. And the beauty of working with us is that all our writers are freelance. And therefore you get the writer who's right for you rather than a staffer. And that really works. And another reason it works is I'm sitting down with these marketing managers who really crave that kind of flexible lifestyle. Many of them have it actually because they're working for enlightened employees. But, you're typically sitting down with a woman who's got a young child and, she gets it. She knows because from her own experience that actually if you have a job that accommodates your lifestyle, your family, particularly your family priorities, then you do better work. So they understand it, and it's actually become a real positive.
Yeah. The guy in the last episode said it beautifully. He said he had a parent working in his team and they sat on their computer for an hour while they waited to pick up their child from school, and that was like 1 hour billable. Like they literally would bill, they could just flexibly work whenever they want. And I much prefer that 100% flexibility. So because we all work differently, right? Some of us start early and some of us better in the mornings and the evenings. And so I think it's, the benefits are definitely there. And I genuinely do believe that I think that, as Pete said, the laws of 15 IR35 needs updating to help that happen. And well, let's talk about coronavirus. Why not? If they're saying 1 in 5 people are going to get affected this morning, Boris was saying on TV. And so actually I know agencies and tech businesses are going to be brilliant at this. I hope you're all brilliant at this because generally they are quite good at work. They have the tools. They're used to remote working. A lot of them do, they can work with Slack. You can
Freestyle tested it today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, surprise Slack message, I think it was last night or this morning, saying we can't open the office, you've got to work from home as a test. And it worked really well.
Really? That's a really clever. So I had written a LinkedIn post last week saying, because actually we used to get hit by snow and floods where we were. So, and I wasn't necessarily referring to, the current challenges, but it was more about, look, have you actually tested this agencies and gone out and shut down for the day and to see how it is? But I think actually, I'm hoping agencies will be in a better position to do that. But the rest of businesses, I mean, those guys,
service businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine a lot of the companies like the law firms. I wonder how effective they will be able to suddenly go completely distributed. I'm probably being a bit unfair because some of them are probably quite modern now, but I think it'll be really weirdly there'll be a positive outcome of this, which will probably accelerate the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah,
people will realise that you do sometimes need to have, there may be situations when we do in the future as well where we need to kind of be working from home for a short period.
Yeah. Well, it's just good all around. If people are happier, then that doesn't it benefits society because you walk into the street and there are happier people. Then it's kind of good for us all.
And I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but I said the other day, the last episode, a couple of episodes ago, I walked from Waterloo to Liverpool Street the other morning, and I went past 400 people. I don't know how many people, it's around 400 people, and not one, two people smiled.
Yeah, well, I've had exactly the same. I used to walk across London Bridge against the, out of the city across London Bridge in the morning when I first met my wife and she was living in London. So you'd see all the people flooding out of London Bridge station. You'd be walking against that traffic. And spot the smile. Yeah, it was incredible.
And in fact, I could obviously because I grew up in the countryside, so probably like you guys, right? I'm just smiling at people, so I'm just happy. But they think you're weird. Like sometimes you're like, why is he smiling? I'm like, no, sorry. So I think you're right. I think you can see the malaise in those in the people that have to become a slave to that conformed history of working whatever it is hours a week, which goes back to
the factory system. Goes back to the factory system, actually. And and then that's replicated in school and in all our institutions. Yeah. Maybe we might be on the verge of a big change in that. I mean, I think the environmental imperative could drive that very quickly.
I think you're dead right, and I think the current challenges as well will probably definitely drive both through because everyone will want to be in a position. And I think really the technology is there now. It's it's often low cost. It's easier to do. Yeah. Whereas before it was quite difficult to be able to work remotely. I mean, I had the big challenge I had at my agency was you couldn't work remotely, Pete. Do you remember? Because half the people didn't have internet.
That's right.
Well, you had dial-up.
Having said that,
I had to find our free serve discs.
To find our free serve discs and install them at home. I've only just got fibre at my house, so but we're getting there with the UK infrastructure, I think. So is there anything else in the other company?
Yes, do we want some more audience participation?
Yeah. So, is this coming on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, well
so
done.
First of all, Priska, she said you're one of her favourite authors.
Yeah, she's one of my favourite agency owners.
And she did the hands up emoji.
That's nice.
Max Tilney, great chat, guys. John, if you could change one thing about your business with the benefit of hindsight, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Hi, Max.
With the benefit, I know Max. Yeah, he's a member of the kitchen table community. He's one of our user testers. Yeah. One thing from the outset, what would it be?
We're going to be using Max, I think, to help us stream our event live next, very shortly. So yeah.
Well, I think if I'd have got the proposition right from the start, and I think if I'd have, because I didn't have a proposition, as I said when I started, and I think. I would have really done a lot of outbound marketing. I think that's something. If I'd have done that from the start, I would have been if I'd done those two things from the start, I know he only asked for one, but it would have been a much quicker takeoff, I think. It would have been, we could have been soaring much sooner than we did.
It's funny, the two other businesses I know like yours do really well. One is incredibly amazing on UK search for copy. And the other one is very big on US search for copy.
Oh, really?
And basically for searches. So in both parties, that's because, again, niche, organic, they're there. But one US, one UK, and they both get huge amounts of business from them.
Yeah, we get quite a bit from organic, thankfully.
Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, it's good. And it was in organic search was in the top 12 ways that the 80% of business came from. Paid and organic was in there, so it was in there. It's in the top 12 ways.
Yeah.
So it's,
Well, it's
you know,
for
from
us.
the survey. So yeah, it's still an important part of the mix. And obviously, being a writer, you must help a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do much of I barely do any writing apart from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the searches work really well. I mean, we've just picked up a sizable client in China. We got an inquiry from Kazakhstan yesterday.
Nice.
We do get quite a lot of
Yeah.
international traffic coming in.
Do you work with any specific sectors in your agency? Are you kind of niche to a sector? Or not?
We do a lot in finance.
You've got a
and
niche
tech.
service, right? So
Yeah, so
sometimes-
we can cover any sector, but we just do a lot in finance and tech. Done a fair amount in HR, a fair bit in travel. But we're sector agnostic. It just so happens that in terms of marketing, I'm particularly targeting finance, HR, and tech.
Okay.
Those are big three.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I think it's funny. I always get confused, with some people saying about niching down in sectors and stuff, and I think that it's funny because at my agency, I always had 3 to 4 niche sectors. And we were a Deloitte Tech Fast 50 company, so we didn't have like one niche. We had a couple, but but we were still quite strong in each niche, I think that's interesting that you've got 2, 3 as well there, because I actually think that is I think sometimes I've got a client at the moment who just focuses on one sector, and actually they're really struggling because it's just too niche almost.
Right.
Which
sector is that?
Goes against mortgages.
Oh, right. Well, that's
Yeah.
that's not just a sector. That's
it's a niche in a
subsector,
niche,
isn't it?
right?
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I can see where you struggle in that. But I
Yeah.
think if you have,
Well, I say
a
struggle.
broad
I mean,
sector-
struggle probably is an exaggeration of the word. The person's doing brilliantly, but it's understanding is the growth potential even more there. And
Yeah.
so actually, I think sometimes you either hit the taxonomy and you go, let's go out to financial pensions and whatever, or you switch completely and you go, I mean, I had e-commerce, I was big in sport, and I had fast growth, which is a really weird sector. If someone was growing fast, we were growing faster. They always had a good connection with us, and that meant that we had quite a broad section of clients, but it worked very well. So I think it's good. I like the fact you've got a few there. That's interesting.
I mean, I advise people to niche. I'd always advise people to niche,
Yeah.
either in the service offer or in terms of the sectors they're targeting.
Yeah, it's very important. Very, very important part of it. But it's hard when you're small to niche, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I first set up, we'd
Just say yes to
as I say, yeah. I mean, so I think we built one website.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you've got a niche specialism, then I think that sets you in good stead. And I would advise people, they might have a niche specialism, but also if you've got a sector you're particularly strong in, then just go for that.
Yeah. What do you think about the whole thing around? So if you're a creative, because you talked about this earlier, and I think this is a really, really. So Pete and I have learned over the years that if you're a creative, I sometimes use the word mechanic because what I mean by that is that people that are kind of people that create work or they're either engineers or they're creatives. Those people, when we work with them with scalable stuff, they often grow better using acquisition. So we can do client services, and obviously those clients are always, those particular agencies are very good at client services because they're good at doing good work and they could look after the client. They may be less so on new business, less salesy, right? Then creatives aren't as outgoingly salesy. Some of them can be very good, but it's acquisition that helps them scale. We find so we tend to do more growth through acquisition with creative and technical people. But I guess my question here is more about: do you think that if someone is reading your book and they're a freelance designer or an engineer or video production max, although he's probably not quite that small, but would you recommend them then getting a business partner who is a salesperson so that they've got that, like you've said about the operations thing? Do you think that's a good idea or not? To have the opposite, someone who can sell and then someone who can create?
It's funny enough, I've just been contacted by a video agency that has that. One does the production, the other does the sales. And I think if you've got the person you can trust, then absolutely, I would. Because your biggest challenge, if you've got somebody who's really good at bringing in new business, then they answer your biggest challenge, which is getting new business. Because
I think you're right about the trust and the chemistry thing, because you do almost have to have. I'm talking to Pete, but when I look over here, if anyone's wondering why, but you got to obviously Pete and I have worked together a long time. We're business partners, but it's it is like a marriage, right? You know, I still have hissy fits at Pete. Pete has hissy fits at me. Doesn't throw things at me like my wife does, though. But it's
are we allowed to throw things? I didn't know that was a thing.
Plenty of stuff in here you can chuck.
but the trust is important. Like, I think to get a business partner, you need to spend some. If you just don't jump into bed too quickly, not that we jump into bed, Pete. Sorry, don't with your business partner. I think to build a relationship over time before you maybe commit to having a business together. Make sure you've worked together, know each other a long time. Because we go to a lot of businesses where one party's fallen out, normally because they just hadn't worked together long enough, and I've seen it quite a lot. I've seen it with other businesses like ours to happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do need the chemistry, and part of that chemistry, and both parties need to be very tolerant and forgiving. You know, if you've got one who
Like
isn't,
me.
then. but
He's fallen off his chair.
I've just put myself on mute.
but you do need that, right? If one of them is awkward, then it's just not going to work out. I think.
No.
You're just going to walk away.
Good. Okay. So what else? What else we want to talk about?
What else are we going to talk about? Wow, so many things. So many things.
So you're when are you going to read my book?
Well,
our book.
I'm going to read your
Our
book now that
Now you've done
literally
this.
today. My online course has gone live, and it does credit you actually in there because one of the
thank you.
Your brilliant
does.
little magic trick.
And Pete, you're in the book.
You're both in the book. No, I mean in the course. The course credits
course
that
as well.
the trick you said about if you're quoting, list everything that you're going to do.
Thank you.
List everything you do, and so it's a big shout out for you in the course, which I think is one of the most valuable things in the course actually.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
if I said it. Sorry, it was a joke, honestly. Yeah, that's good. I appreciate you referencing us. It's very nice of you.
No,
to
well,
do that.
to answer your question about your book, now the course is out and now my book's out, then I'll read it because I didn't want to.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't really want you to read it because I was worried about the amount of typos. Well,
there are typos in mine. So
no way.
There are, yeah, and
I didn't see them.
No,
Phew.
well, I proofed it 2 or 3 times, but there are still some in there.
Tell me about it.
The next, I did write them because that is. Let me see, which one is? Have you got? Did you buy that one?
That's the first edition.
Is that the one? Is that the one I gave you?
No.
This is the
one you gave.
Oh, this is corrected.
The one you gave me, I gave away to someone who was. I said, "Do you know what? Don't read our book. Read this one because they were someone who was doing it as a
very much.
Yeah, no, and I've recommended quite a few people actually.
Well, thank you. And this is the corrected version because
I would ask for commission,
version,
but I know you don't get any money from book sales from Amazon. So,
well, I'll buy you a packet of crisps. That probably covers it.
But on that subject, actually, I think it took us. I think we paid for someone to proofread.
We did, yeah, £900,
and was it that much? And we still had loads of typos, and it took us. It honestly took us about 10 months to actually clear them out. And I did actually. I think I only got one dodgy review on Goodreads. Who actually the guys are lovely. We're good friends now because I messaged them and talked about it. And said to send them a new copy. And I think in the end we cleared about 400. I mean, obviously it's a little bit bigger, but.
It's about 3 or 4 times as big.
Yeah, so we wrote too much. There's no question. But anyway, but it's difficult, and I'm quite pleased you didn't read it first of all because you would have found stuff. And if you do find anything, can you let me know because then I can just get it updated. But I think it's when people read books, they think the typos aren't going to happen, and it's weird because some of them weren't even typos from the writing. They were where it suddenly was getting edited, and we're putting into things get cut and. Spell checkers suddenly kick in and do weird things and whatever. So it's quite hard, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it can drive yourself mad. I think at some point you just have to let go. And I let go of this. Then I got the first 50. I ordered 50 copies that came in. Just spotted these things. And, oh God! So I then went and corrected it. But.
Yeah, we got. I mean, obviously, is this Amazon printing as well?
No, it's Ingram.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I published it under my own imprint, and then it's published as a right arm book.
Do you sell it?
And then put it.
What does that mean? Does it mean you've got a machine in the shed in the garden, or
no? It's just the imprint being right arm as a publisher.
Okay.
But I did Ingram. I used Ingram Spark, which is the platform for for the upload. I actually created it on. Blurb, and then it was complicated. I should have probably created it on Ingram Spark.
This is good though. Sorry, because I want us to talk more about tools. So when you did the book, you used Blurb.
Blurb to create it, but I probably should have gone to Ingram Spark to begin with and used their tool. And Ingram Spark was, uploaded it, and they handle all the distribution.
I'll get Abby to
and
put those in the show notes, because I think people, it's good to know about these tools. I mean, I use Amazon Kindle Create,
right? Okay.
No, something Create, and the only I'm so pleased, because from an environmental point of view, if I'd printed those first lot out, it would have been, with the typos, Pete would have been like burning a lot of books, which wouldn't have been very good. No. So actually, the self-printed is great, but then of course all the creators go, I wish the cover was hardback, and it's a little bit sort of digital printed, but it's better for the environment. I believe it is anyway, and I think it's got it out on the market quicker. So maybe I'll put some of those in. I think, what other tools do you recommend in your? This is what we can talk about, because I've got this big thing on my back. What tools do you use? Do you use studio software to manage the workflow?
No, we've for the project management, we use Workflow Max.
Okay, do you Workflow Max?
Yeah, because it's fine for what we do. I mean, it doesn't. We probably use it at about 50% of its capacity.
Do you use it because it integrates to Xero really well?
Yeah, and because we're not doing complex collaborative projects, I think we don't need something like Asana or Basecamp or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's been really handy, actually. Workflow Max. Xero we use, HubSpot because we use the marketing service we use is SoPro, who are brilliant, and they integrate. They give you a huge dashboard, lots of very granular data, but they integrate with HubSpot and a number of other CRMs. But so we got HubSpot, but again, use HubSpot to a fraction of its capacity. Receipt Bank. And then we've separately got, as a freelancer management system, Talent Desk, which is a people per hour spin out, talentdesk.io, which we've not used to its full capacity yet, but I really recommend it to people.
So is that for resourcing? That sounds like the sort of thing Max was asking.
I mean, it's
people per hour. You get freelancers on there.
You can. There's a gateway to people per hour to find freelancers, but basically it's a database and a management system, so the freelancers can do their own timesheets and so on and so forth. But we've not used it proper to its full capacity yet, just because we've just been really flat out. So those are the basics ones we use. But as I say, we're a copywriting agency. So if you're doing a bigger collaborative project, you maybe don't want to be using Workflow Max,
right?
But when you do, we do loads of jobs. So we're getting how many jobs a week? Don't know. Maybe 10 jobs a week. Then you just need a list. Workflow Max gives you that list, and you do all the financials through it and so on, and integrates very nicely with Xero.
It's funny, Pete. We always talk about this about project management software, but it's like we have a list ourselves of about 12 of the main products. I think we missed out Asana. Probably put it on there, but no one really raves about their product. Do they go, this is the best one in the market?
It's funny because you mentioned Xero, and if you ask 10 agency owners, 9 would say they were using Xero. If you ask
maybe more, do you think?
If you ask about project management software, you ask 10 agency owners,
you get 10 answers.
You get 10 answers. It's so true. I spoke to someone the other day who's also got another product, which sounded really, really good, to be fair. And I was like, God, it really is such a competitive market. There's I mean, I think Harvest and Forecast is getting a lot of, and Jira, is it Jira? And there's a lot of people I'm hearing that Studio Max, Workflow Studio Max got,
Workflow Max.
Workflow Max it was about 4 or 5 years ago, because I think everyone loved the Xero integration.
Xero bought them.
That's right. Right. It was a real
Same
darling
interface,
thing, and then now I'm hearing Harvest and Forecast quite a lot of people, but I remember we went through the same thing ourselves, kept changing products, trying to find one that was good. I think you've got to be sometimes just get your project manager or operations manager to choose the best one, and then get everybody to kind of adopt to it.
Yeah. But it so much depends on the type of work you're doing. I mean, as I said, Workflow Max is good for us, but it might not be good for a web agency. So there isn't a right answer. No, as you say, nobody loves their project management software. They tolerate it.
No, but I think it's for me. I just wanted to. It's good for you to share with us, the tools you're using, because I think over the next few episodes it'd be really good, Pete. What do you think, to sort of kind of just find more of those tools? What do people do for time tracking? Do they time track? What? I mean, some people, are still using Basecamp. I think, I was,
or a spreadsheet.
yeah, and some people use spreadsheets still. And, I think one of the things that Pete and I have been ranting about the most in the last week is how many agencies we go into complicate their agencies with too many systems as well. So they're almost the other way, where we're like, really, you need all this information? It's like, cut it back and just cut back to the basics. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I mean, like Workflow Max and HubSpot, you got all the kind of lead tracking stuff in there. But actually, for lead tracking, we do a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
it's so much easier because you can, you just put the name of the contact details, what they want, what your actions are going to be.
Yeah.
Keep
do you
it
like
simple.
HubSpot?
I do, but it's more of a database, to be honest. I mean, we don't use
CRM,
it. We don't use it for sales.
No,
it was just you just log all your emails, log your meetings, put reminders in. That's really handy, actually. But
we use it for our data. I think it's brilliant. I mean, I must admit, I was always a little bit resistant to go with one that, because there's so many free ones out there. Low cost.
We use the free version.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I actually felt bad paying for the free. I actually started paying for it because I felt like it was doing such a good job for us that I should pay the money. Because obviously I think our events have been selling out like every single time since we've been using it, and I thought we realised it was actually worth us investing and paying for. Although we probably still need to use we use about 1% of HubSpot because, as you say,
well, they're just vast, these things, aren't they? They're real beasts, and
you get on a sales call with them and they're like taking you down this route of all these amazing things, but I don't think we've actually got the time to implement, let alone
it's a full-time
to
job.
manage.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, it really is. So this has been great speaking to you.
Likewise, I've loved it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No worries. I promise I'll get that review on this book done. And you know what? You just said that story about that journey, and I remember it. And I'm thinking, gosh, my brain's really bad. I need to go back and reread this again because I kind of half remember that, but I need to go back and see it when you first started up. So, everyone, we'll put the book in the show notes for you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Pete,
Thanks,
as always, with the very complex setup over there.
No worries. Love it.
Editing the show, executive producer Pete, not Peter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.